Good evening, everyone. Sam Darley here with the Sam Darley Show, and tonight I'm going to talk about some turmoil going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as look at the matchup in Super Bowl 51. I'm going to start with Pittsburgh. There's been numerous reports about the Pittsburgh Steelers not being happy with Big Ben, not Big Ben, Antonio Brown, talking about, he cares more about his stats, he wants the ball more. Of course he does. He's a superstar receiver. Every superstar receiver, at some way or another, have a giant ego. They either show it or they don't. Antonio Brown, with a lot of his dances and his twerking, he's a colorful, entertaining guy to watch. And whether the Pittsburgh Steelers move on from him, that's going to be a story to keep an eye on. I mean, the star running back Le'Veon Bell is a free agent potentially, but the Steelers can resign him or they could franchise him, and also their superstar Hall of Fame quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is contemplating retirement. So what the heck is going on in Pittsburgh? I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers have only had 3 coaches in 50 years of existence, and that's they are very patient with head coaches. They don't fire. They hardly make any changes to the staff, and James Harrison's already come out and said he's coming back for another year. He's 38 years old. He's a defensive end, but by the time he's the last of the terrible towel, Steel City tough defense. He's a menace, but even at 38 years old, part of the time is going to catch up to him. But Big Ben is contemplating retirement because of health issues, talking about his family and whether or not he wants to continue playing football. I mean, I get it. He's 34 years old. He's won a couple of Super Bowls. He came one win short of the Super Bowl. Maybe he's just mad that they lost to the Patriots. I don't know. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of Steelers fans, at least on my social media. But I think there's some truth to it. I think Ben, over the years, Ben has taken a lot of hits. He hasn't really changed the way he plays. He's a big quarterback. People always try to bring him down by the legs. Do I think he retires? I doubt it. I really doubt it. But he's 34. He's nearing the exit of his career. And Pittsburgh does not have a backup quarterback that you could consider reliable. They have Landry Jones, who's terrible. Zach Mettenberger, excuse me. Zach Mettenberger could be a solid quarterback for them. Not like Big Ben. I mean, not Hall of Fame worthy. But, a guy like McThrows can make plays in the pocket. He's got a big arm. He's fairly accurate. I don't think he really got much of a chance in Tennessee. So I don't know. To me, this feels very much like tantrum-ish, if you call it, from losing to the New England Patriots in the AFC title game. Now they're licking their wounds. But there's a lot of. There's no question the Steelers have to think about the future of quarterback. Because Ben's not going to play forever. And if he retires, they're going to have no choice but to draft one. Well, maybe they get lucky and get Deshaun Watson. How lucky would Deshaun be? I mean, Deshaun's already talking about skipping the Senior Bowl because he doesn't want to play in Cleveland. First of all, Cleveland should not take a quarterback at all in this draft. Not because they don't need one, because obviously they need to find the franchise guy, but I think they've got the guy. I think Cody Kessler is the guy. I just think when you look at the Browns as a team, they're missing a lot of pieces. There's a lot more to what they need than quarterback. And you can't keep taking quarterback and think that's going to solve all your problems. I know people will point to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. You rarely stumble upon that type of quarterback. And then, while we're talking about Aaron Rodgers for a second, I think he should think about asking for a trade or a release from the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they've got a lot of work to do before they could be considered legit Super Bowl contenders. And by the time they are ready to contend, he might be 38, 39 years old. He could go to Kansas City. He could go to Houston. He could go to Denver. Those teams are on the cusp of being Super Bowl contending teams. All they need is a quarterback. And yes, Denver needs a quarterback. Denver met with Tony Romo. I don't think John Elway is stupid enough to trade for a 36-year-old quarterback due to make $20 million for the next 3 years. What was it, 4 years? Yeah, it's a 36-year-old quarterback that's had injury problems. I know he started MVP voting a couple of years ago, but my goodness, you're really gonna trade for that contract? No, no team is gonna trade for that. It's gonna be Denver or Houston that gets Romo, and maybe Pittsburgh gets in on the Romo Act if Roethlisberger retires. Go back to Antonio Brown for a second. Antonio Brown is really, I don't think he's the best receiver in the game. I think Big Ben I think he reminds me a lot of Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace hasn't been heard of since leaving Pittsburgh, and because a lot of what he can do is, a lot of what he does is what Antonio Brown does. He runs a lot of go routes. He can run the screen. He's got a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. But to me, Antonio Brown, when you got a quarterback like Big Ben and a running back like Le'Veon Bell pulling defenses, then it kind of makes it a little easier because you're going to be facing a lot of one-on-one coverage. Whereas without Big Ben or without Le'Veon, there's defenses are not going to respect the run nor the pass, so they're going to double. They're going to put safety help over the top. I just don't think he's that good of a receiver. I think he's don't get me wrong. Before you jump down my throat, I think he's a very fast guy. I think he's very talented. I just don't think he's better than Hopkins. I don't think he's better than Dez Bryant, and I definitely don't think he's better than Julio. Man, what a year Julio Jones is having. And, so if Pittsburgh moves on from Antonio Brown, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not a big believer in his hype. I'm not trying to say he's not. I mean, he's not. He's a speed demon with pretty good route running ability. That's what I think of when I think of Antonio Brown. And I think of him as Mike Wallace 2.0. The second he leaves Big Ben, he's probably going to disappear. Not literally. But I mean, as far as his numbers will go into decline. I think the Steelers will keep Le'Veon Bell. I'd be shocked if Big Ben retired, but at the same time I kind of wouldn't because he's 34 years old. He's had injury. He's played with a lot of injuries over the years. Whether or not he wants to continue doing that is entirely up to him. But he's got to change the way he plays. He's got to stop taking big hits. He's got to find a way to either stay in the pocket longer or just throw the ball away. Get rid of the ball quicker or just throw it away. I mean, don't give defenses a chance to beat you up physically in the pocket and outside the pocket. If I was Big Ben, I would literally try and I'd watch Tom Brady. I'd watch Peyton Manning. Those guys played as long as they did because they stayed in the pocket. They didn't do a lot of what Cam Newton does and what Big Ben can do. And Aaron Rodgers can get away from pressure, but it's not the first thing he does. He's run first quarterbacks. They don't last very long in football, professional football, because the guys are bigger and stronger, and they don't know how to slide. They think they can get extra yards. See RG3's injury problems. See Cam Newton's injury problems. Instead of just going down and sliding, you're taking big hits, and it's exactly something that's going on with Big Ben. He's got to stop taking big hits. We're looking ahead to The Super Bowl 51, is the second Super Bowl the city of Houston is hosting, and the construction work at downtown needs to be done as soon as possible because, my gosh, I've been down there. It's still not done. They've had what, 3 years to prepare for this? Not trying to be disrespectful, but come on. Your city, the fourth largest city in the United States, needs to be ready to host the biggest game in professional sports. I think they will. And I think as far as the matchup is concerned, everybody, talk of the town is people want the Falcons to win because they've never done it. And I'm in that same boat. I think experience is going to be a huge factor. Huge. I listen to Colin Cowherd, and I actually kind of agree. I don't see it as Denver versus Seattle, the 43-8 blowout, or the Denver-Carolina matchup where the Falcons were hyped up, where the Panthers were hyped up against the Broncos, against a team that been there and done that. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to how well the Falcons handle the media pressure, because there's no week like media week and leading up to the Super Bowl. That's when you really know, I think, if you're a player, that you're in the Super Bowl, that you're getting ready to play the biggest game of your life, pretty much. The whole world's going to be watching, and I'm interested to see how Atlanta handles Bill Belichick. It's about playing. I said this back when the Patriots were playing the Texans. It's not about Tom Brady. Belichick is 14-6 without Brady for a reason. He's a great coach. You got to beat Belichick. You got to beat him at chess. And I'm interested to see how the Falcons coaches handle going up against Bill Belichick. How they find a way to schematically. Belichick always tries to look for that wrinkle in your offense and your game plan. He always takes the best options away from you. So I'm interested. This is going to be about Mohamed Sanu and the tight ends, and that's going to be that's going to be where the Falcons either win or lose the Super Bowl. How they match, how they find a way to prevent Belichick from schematically taking away Julio, Coleman, and Freeman. But it's an exciting team to watch, Atlanta. And again, I think Kyle Shanahan would be absolutely nuts to even think of taking that San Francisco 49ers job. The San Francisco 49ers, they don't have the quarterback. They don't have the playmakers. They certainly do not have the GM in place. I mean, my goodness. Why would you leave Matt Ryan and the number one offense that you basically created? You basically created a monster in Atlanta. Why would you leave that for San Francisco? I can agree with people. An offensive coordinator wants to be a head coach, and he should get his opportunity. Of course. I completely agree and I respect that, but my goodness. You want to leave Atlanta? This is the Sam Darley Show. Sam Darley here, your host. Talking football. While it's the Super Bowl, well, it's actually Pro Bowl week this week. Does anyone watch that? It's going back to the AFC versus NFC. It's still going to be a boring game. It's in Orlando. The Senior Bowl is Saturday night. That's when a lot of teams can discover quarterbacks from schools that aren't as marquee as Clemson and Alabama and all that. All the big bells and whistles. You can find it's where you can find the diamond in the rough. And I think for these quarterback needy teams like Houston, Kansas City, the Jets, the Bills, and Denver, and maybe Pittsburgh, Well, no, I'm going to put Pittsburgh in that class because they're going to need a backup quarterback for Big Ben when he retires. So, while we're sitting here going, well, Deshaun Watson's not going to play in the Senior Bowl, to me that should kill his draft stock. Like, you're not playing for one team. You're not playing in front of one scout. You're playing in front of every NFL scout from every NFL team. And I'm sure every NFL GM is up there, and every coach except for Belichick and Dan Quinn, because they're at the Super Bowl. So, you've got to go out there and you got to show these teams, show these scouts, show these coaches what you're made of. And to me, that's what I'm disappointed most with Deshaun Watson. Like, why aren't you going to the Senior Bowl? It's an honor. It's a chance for you to showcase your talent. Now, I know he was a really talented quarterback. And he probably doesn't need to show more than what he showed in the college football season and the championship game. But, I mean, seriously, you're making it too much about the Browns and, you don't want to play for Cleveland. That's fine. But you got 31 other teams that want to see you, and they may have the film from your college and high school days, but that doesn't mean anything. You still need to show them something, and I'm just disappointed. Super Bowl 51 in Houston. We're getting ready for the big game. How are you, as a fan, getting ready? Are you root for the Falcons or you root for the Patriots? I know for one thing, I'm root for a good game. I mean, these playoffs have been pretty good, been okay, but I think a great game in Houston. And I'll just go into this, but the NFL wants NRG to open up the roof. The people at NRG to open up the roof. Of course, the Texans aren't playing. When the Texans are playing, Bob McNair would make sure that the roof stayed closed. But because it's the Super Bowl, if it's a nice day, I'm pretty sure they'll open it. But I guess we'll see what happens. Turmoil in Pittsburgh, maybe. Big Ben maybe retiring. Antonio Brown may be on the way out. Le'Veon Bell's a free agent. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Super Bowl 51 is coming up. We're one game left of three games left if you count the Senior Bowl, the Pro Bowl, as well as the Super Bowl. And if you're in Houston, are you going to the NFL Fan Experience? I believe it starts this weekend, and it runs all the way until Super Bowl Sunday. Well, I know I'll be going on Super Bowl Sunday, so it'll run. Super Bowl Sunday will be the last day of the NFL Experience. Be a great chance for fans to get out there and enjoy the festivities and get ready for the big game. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for listening. Have a great night.